Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High, Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakakwadash. And I want to say Shalom to Aknakwat out there, pursuing this truth diligently. Coming at you once again with another lesson. And this one, a little impromptu lesson. I didn't really think I was going to be making this, right? I was just scrolling around, seeing what the brothers were making, the apostles and whatnot, and came on my page. This video, little clip by the apostle Tahar. His page is What is the 666 Mark II GMS Truth? If you're not subscribed, go ahead and do so. And the title of the video is, For the Record, Priest Taka teaches that the other nations can be saved. All right. Now, this guy, Priest Taka, he's got another guy that teaches with him now. I can't remember the name. I know they call him, I believe they call him just Heckle and Jekyll, but they're all the way gone, man. And they've been gone for some time, but they've gotten, even worse. At one point with Sakari, which Priest Taka, as a matter of fact, if you look up, at the time, he was called the Deacon, all right, Deacon Haka, all right, or Deacon Haka Genesis, he went by some name. He was a rapper too, but this is the dude here. All right, you can just tell you see the Deacon, servant of Yahweh, and they come in the name of Christ now. All right, so the Lord took his name from them. All right, and yeah, this guy's all the way gone. All right, it was this guy. And of course, he had it was Deacon Haka and man, I always forget his name. He's such a forgettable guy. The peg pundit. What's his name? Something. 1 minute. Alazar. Before I even typed in it, Alazar. All right, they were the two. I don't know if they were the two only, but two, frontmen of Sakari. And he had all these different things and just ridiculousness. You could tell he's not a man of understanding just by how the things that he's done. All right, the things that he's done. The ways that he is. All right, this is back when Sakari was still around, and then the Lord, snuffed out. All right, Sakari, and snuffing is a term for. It really means now it's a slang for kill. All right, but snuff is like snuffing a candle. It means to put out. All right, if you look up to snuff. All right, that's also a type of tobacco. But if you look up to snuff or snuff. Okay, snuff out means to extinguish a flame like a candle, or to abruptly or to end or destroy something such as hope, life, or a movement. In this case, they never really had a flame to begin with. Maybe a very, very small one, but that was a movement. All right, because it wasn't it was just a movement. All right, that's all Sakari was. It was just what is a movement? All right, what is a movement? And a lot of people try to say the Hebrew Israelites, they're not a religion, they're a movement. No, we're a lineage and a heritage. All right, but in a way, you could say it's a movement. All right, in ways, but it's not really a movement in the traditional sense of the word. But Sakari was a movement. All right. A group of people working together to advance their shared political, social, or artistic ideas. All right. A campaign undertaken by people that work together. You can see the word a camp, a coalition. All right. What's a coalition? An alliance for combined action, such as a temporary alliance, political parties, forming government of states. These guys were really a movement. All right. They were just, because it was more on their social ideas. It wasn't anything really related to the Bible. All right, they roughly based, all right, their movement, all right, around the Bible. All right, but they were not a Bible-centric group. All right, they were mostly focused on, their thoughts, not the Lord's ways. They were focused on their ways, and ultimately, that's what ended up, through Yahweh Shem Yahushai, bringing that thing to a disband, all right, to being disbanded, all right, and it didn't really help with Alazar's, peg pundit, all right, case, all right. So they're doing, I guess, Truth, this Truth United versus Priest Hakah. Now, I guess they go by TGC Ministries. All right, we can look them up. All right, right here, TGC Ministry. I'll just recorrect this one because I'm not typing all that. Okay, which it says Priest Hakah is a biblical specialist and a high-level teacher. No, the fuck he ain't. Ain't a high-level teacher. If you want a high-level teacher, go to this page. That's a high-level teacher. You want a high-level teacher, go to the Apostle Tahar's page. Go to the Apostle. I'm gonna see if he's gonna show up. The Apostle Gabar's page. All right, Daily Edification 4. All right, if you want high-level teaching, all right, go to GMS Infodoc Channel 12. All right, Apostle Ramalab. All right, if you want high-level teaching. All right, and that's the, those are the apostles. You can get high-level teaching from the elders and brothers as well in GMS, because they make sure that it's on lock. All right. Again, I'm not in GMS. All right, but I'd be considered GMS adjacent. There's no such things as affiliates. All right, but if you look up adjacent, okay, close to, near to, beside, and or adjacent. Adjacent would mean, close in proximity, as in, not on the same level, but, doing the same thing, building up the house of David. All right, doing the work in the will of Yahweh Shem Yahushai, calling on the name Yahweh Shem Yahushai, and teaching and preaching the Bible in sincerity. All right, the way as it should be taught. All right. So the closest that I usually just say the GMS adjacent, all right, because I'm not affiliated in any way, because affiliate, all right, if you look up affiliate, all right, it's a subgroup, all right, a subsidiary group officially attached or connected to an organization. I'm not officially attached to them in any type of way, all right, so I'd be non-affiliated. It would be adjacent, all right, or example, let's find a better word. What would a good word be for someone who is not part of a specific group, but teaches, behaves, and structures themselves like them? Not affiliate, because that means a subsidiary. What do we get word? That's a good one. GMS adherent. All right. Adjacent works. All right, group adjacent. All right, adjacent or adherent. All right, I like those words. So yeah, but anyway, kind of lost track on what I was saying. I tend to do that because I went off on a tangent. But anyway, if you want to get it from GMS, because they keep their stuff unlocked. Again, I'm not in GMS. I'm GMS adjacent. All right. I'm just, what I already forgot the word that it said. I learned from them. All right. I learned that's who I learned from. All right. This is who I learned the truth from through Yahweh Shem Yahushai. GMS, of course. Let me say it on the right page, not over on TGC Ministries. So, building up the house of David. All right. And the best, that I can. Right. So, but this guy, these guys are completely ridiculous. So let's go and see what do we got here. These guys are completely, lost. And there's just not even a bunch of things I'd really even, Look. Esau, Edomite can be saved, but will he accept? So you're saying that Edomites can be saved now? You know, these guys are all the way gone, man. All right, and like I said, ever since the whole Al-Azhar situation that fell through, and these guys, they're teaching Edomite salvation and all sorts of shit, right? All sorts of shit, and that's, you know, really a long, rambly opening, as I tend to do, Salakia, for this lesson. All right, which of course is really coming from this comment. All right, now this comment is by this person Xanderley XP, and you can tell this is a man of no understanding. He's got the fucking beard with no mustache. All right, he's got the fucking Abraham Lincoln, the Drewski going on. All right, looks fucking retarded. All right, not to make ad hominem attacks. I'm just saying, Jake, that shit looks dumb. Stop it. Grow the mustache out. All right, you got a beard, all this beard with no mustache. It looks retarded as shit. Slakia, it just does. And this guy and his infinite lack of understanding, it says, Apostle, you don't think every single heathen will be wiped out. You believe they will be in the kingdom as slaves and tributaries. After 1,000 years, they will live in peace and eat from the tree of life. So you do believe they will be saved and enjoy the world to come. That's not salvation. Okay, that's not salvation. Again, you're in that Christian mindset, and when I say Christian mindset, I use that loosely because you might be subscribing to the ideas of the Bible in true sincerity. All right, i.e., Hebrew Israelite, being a Hebrew Israelite, but you have that Christian mindset on you because they don't understand definitions. Okay, salvation is not being destroyed. All right, and or some being set aside. That's not salvation. All right, that's destruction or subjugation. Okay, that's not salvation. All right, let's go and get those words. Subjugation.
Subjugation.
All right, the action of bringing someone or something under domination or control. All right, subjugation is not salvation. Okay, as a matter of fact, let me go into a file where I don't have anything. Salvation. No, subjugation is not salvation. Okay, and I'll actually open that up, leave it right there so I can find it. Right, so subjugation is not salvation. All right, being brought under the rule of Israel, even if you're set aside, not saved but set aside. All right, off to the side, not saved, set aside. All right, to be the first going into captivity, that's first of all, and you didn't necessarily die in Babylon, that's not salvation, okay? And then two, and not in the true sense of the word, you can say, oh, they were saved from a nuclear missiles, but they weren't saved from what was about to happen to them. That's not salvation. Oh, you were saved from being hit by the car, but then someone came up to you and whacked you in the neck with a machete. That's not really, you weren't saved. All right, you just were, destined for another purpose. All right, for subjugation. That's still a form of judgment. I don't know what you're talking about as far as again, these Christians don't know what they're talking about. And I don't know if this guy's a Hebrew Israelite or what he is, but he's in a Christian mindset because Christians don't understand what they're talking about when they deal with definitions. A definition is confounding to a Christian. All right. And again, subjugation, Gentile. Calm down. Don't need you popping a fucking blood vessel. But you don't know what you're talking about. It says they after 1,000 years they will live in peace. Yeah, after 1,000 years, but they're still going to be in subjugation. All right, they're going to be subject unto the Israelites. All right, starting with of course Yahweh, but the King Yahushai on down. That's ruling in Yahweh's name, of course. So that's not really salvation. Okay, that's subjugation. Okay, that's subjugation. All right, are we saved right now? No, we're not saved. We're not saved. We're not in a state of salvation right now. Okay, and we're under a heathen's rule. All right, we're under an opposite nation's rule. Okay, so tell me, in the kingdom, if we're not saved right now, when they're in the kingdom, and they will be in the kingdom, all right, and that's where a lot of people get confused, all right, because the Christian identity has confused so many people. They say, oh, you know, the bad people are going to go to hell and burn forever, and the other people are going to heaven. No, everyone's going to heaven. Everyone's going to be in the kingdom, all right? Esau, the other heathens, Israel, of course, all right? The main stars of the show got to be there. It's their kingdom, all right, through Yahweh Shem Yahushai, starting with Yahweh Shai, all right, as king. And so everyone's going to be there. All right, that's the first basis that needs to be known. Everyone's going to be there. Okay, there's no one going to be going to hell and separate from the Lord, and we can prove that because it says, let's get it. This is Ecclesiastes 12:7. It says, then shall the dust return to the earth as it was, and the spirit shall return unto Yahweh who gave it. All right, Satan never gave no souls. All right, so they're not going to go and rest with Satan or unrest with Satan and burn for all eternity. No, that's not how it's going to work. So they are going to be there, but they're not going to be in a state of salvation. All right, because again, we're under the rule of an adversary. Okay, so we're not in salvation. All right. Them being under the rule of us, they're not going to be in salvation. They're going to be in subjugation. Okay, now, will their subjugation be better than our subjugation under Esau? Yes, it will be. All right, because we're going to be a righteous people. All right, in a full capacity, right? You know, we are in a sense, but we're not righteous as we should be. You know, because we're not perfect in this body. We're fleshly. We sin. We go off. Right. But they're going to be in a better way, but they're still going to be in subjugation. All right, and the proof that they're going to be under subjugation, up to worship the king. Right. So this is Zechariah 14:16, dealing with the heathens. It says, and it shall come to pass that every one that is left of all nations which came against Jerusalem, which is all nations, mind you, all nations. It says, even shall even go up from year to year to worship the king. All right, and the king in this case is Yahweh Shai, but Yahweh Shem Yahushai. It says, the Lord of hosts, and to keep the feast of tabernacles. They shall, all right. It says, and it shall be that whoso will not come up of all the families of the earth unto Jerusalem to worship the king, the Lord of hosts, even upon them shall be no rain. And if the family of Egypt go not up and come not, that have no rain, there shall be the plague, wherewith the Lord will smite the heathen that will come not up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. So that's subjugation, all right? You're going to have to do something. You're going to be forced into it. Subjugation is what? The action of bringing someone or something under domination or control, and that control is that you're going to be forced, all right, to worship Yahweh Shem Yahushai. You're not going to have a choice. You're going to be a forced convert. All right, does that mean you're going to be a Hebrew Israelite? No. All right, you're still going to be a heathen, but you're going to be worshiping, and the Lord's going to allow it because as in the state right now where he's not your power, he's essentially, you're not going to be his people, but he is going to be essentially your power because you're going to be forced to worship him because he's the Lord of Lords, the King of Kings, and you're going to have to worship him. There's not going to be other false gods to worship, all right? And you're going to be forced in subjugation under him to worship him. Okay, that's how it's going to be, and you're not going to have a choice, or else there's not going to be any rain that falls on your crop, and then you're going to starve and die. So, and then if you don't starve and die, you try to hold out on it, right? You try to fast for a couple days or a couple weeks to wait out of it, and guess what? Then he's going to start putting plagues on you, all right? Because unlike us, you're still going to get sick and die. That's not salvation. Okay, that's not salvation. Okay, salvation. Go and get that word. It says salvation is deliverance from suffering, sin, evil, or death, often leading to eternal life. The heathens aren't going to have eternal life, right? They're still going to perish, all right? They're not going to have the updated spiritual bodies like we're going to. It says, or a higher spiritual state, really with the bodies and the ability to have the law written within us. They're not going to have that, okay? So they're not going to have that, okay? They might be saved in this case from death in the in Babylon's destruction, so they can be the first that goes in, but that's going to be a very small number that gets set aside to be, first in. All right, so, and that's really going to be mostly high profile individuals. All right, people like presidents, politicians, all right, elites, All right, those type people. All right, Jewish big banking families. All right, them. All right, it's not going to be just your regular old schmegler Edomites that are just, they work at Walmart. All right, not to say that none of them might be, set aside for the first to go into captivity. All right, and that's not saved or set aside as in how Jake is going to be saved or set aside. Okay, they're going to be set aside as in like, set these guys aside because we're going to need them as slaves. Okay, because when we go in, all right, well, first we're going to be dwelling on the chariots, before, the kingdom gets fully built. But we're going to have servants. All right, we can't just not have servants. We're going to have our servants. That's part of the portion. That's part of our reward through Yahweh Shem Yahushai that we're going to get. All right, he said he was going to give it to us. He's going to give it to us. So he's not like men who lie. So if all the heathens died, how are we going to have any? How are we going to have any heathens? All right, as servants. Okay, we're not going to have other Israelites as servants. How are we going to have our servants? All right, some have to be set aside. All right, not necessarily to die in Babylon. All right, so they can go and be first in. All right, first in. Okay, so that's not salvation. Okay, that's not say I wasn't saved if you pulled me out of the way of a bus about to hit me just to stab me in the throat. That's not saved. Okay, that's something else. I don't know what you would want to call that. All right, set aside for a different purpose. All right, but it's not salvation. All right, as we just got, it's not salvation. Save means to keep safe or to rescue from harm or danger. And you're going to have harm or danger, all right? You're going to be under hardcore captivity under us, all right, the Israelites. So you're not going to be safe from danger. You're going to be in danger, okay? So, you being forced into forcible labor, that's harm. That is harm, all right? Harm will be brought onto you, and it has to happen through Yahweh Shem Yahushai because of the wickedness that you've done. There has to be a recompense. All right, recompense. All right, make amends to someone for loss or harm suffered. All right, there has to be a recompense. All right, and Esau, they're unable to have a recompense. All right, they're just gonna have to serve their 1,000 years, and then they're gonna go away, never to return as a nation again. All right, gone, kaput. All right, and they're gonna burn out down through the roots. All right, never return as a nation. There won't be any Edomites. There'll still be Moabites, Hamites, and all the other nations. All right, still under subjugation of Yahweh Shem Yahushai. But the Edomites, after 1,000 years, go away, never to return as a nation because of the vast amount of wickedness, and they'll never change. They'll never be able to worship Yahweh Shem Yahushai or do anything right because they are the most profane, the evil. All right, the wicked, as the Bible calls them. All right, no one is profane as Esau. All right, they're not going to be able to change. Okay, that's not salvation. Okay, Zanderley, that's not salvation. 1,000 years they will live in peace and eat from the tree of life. So do you believe they will be saved? So you do believe they will be saved and enjoy the world to come. That's not salvation, Xander. That's not salvation, man. All right, and again, we just talked about this the other day, but lean right here. This is Proverbs 3 and 5. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart and lean not unto thine own understanding. Okay? You're not supposed to lean into your own understanding. All right? Because then you start thinking that you know something when you don't, man. You don't. You don't know anything. All right? You should shut up. All right? You should shut up. So, yeah, man, Anyway, the other nations cannot be saved. That's not salvation. That is not salvation. That is not salvation. That is not salvation. Subjugation is not salvation. Okay, so let's get Proverbs 3 and 5. It says, we already got that one. But Proverbs, come on now, get with the program, tongue. Romans 9 and 27. It says, so only the elect is going to be truly saved, all right, of Israel. Okay, that's it. No one else. It says, Romans 9 and 27, Isaiah also cried concerning Israel, though the number of the children of Israel be as the sand of the sea, a remnant shall be saved. So even though there's a lot of Israelites, only a small portion of them are going to be saved. A remnant. Okay, we talked about this a little bit yesterday. A small remaining quantity of something. All right, leftovers. All right, small because all the rest were destroyed. All right, and again, they're going to be in the kingdom. They're going to come back. Okay, but they weren't necessarily saved. Okay, there's another example. Even not all of Israel is going to be saved. You're talking about heathens being saved. No, not even all of Israel is going to be saved. The remnant shall be saved. All right, the remnant shall be saved. The remnant shall be saved. The elect shall be saved. Okay, So again, saved is delivered from death or destruction, and in a sense, for the most part. But that doesn't count if you're just going into instant subjugation. Okay. So and really, if we get Romans 9:27 in the Blue Letter Bible, and you go down to the word in Greek, saved, all right, goes back to the word right here. All right, so dazo.
Strong's G 4982. Sozo.
It says to save, to keep safe and sound, to rescue from danger or destruction. Okay, so the heathens are not going to be kept safe and sound. They're going to be subject under Yahweh Basham Yahushai and go into captivity. And while they might be rescued from the destruction of Babylon, they're still going to be in danger. All right. They're still going to be, or right here it says to save from injury and peril, to save one from perishing, suffering from disease, to make well, to heal, or restore to health. They're not going to be. Okay. They're not going to be. So, or to deliver from the penalties of the messianic judgment. And they're not. No. And again, you're confusing being set aside for salvation. All right. Well, it means they're going to be saved from destruction. They're going to be kept aside from destruction, but they're still going to be put in danger. All right. They're not going to be safe and sound. What does safe and sound mean? Safe and sound. Unharmed, uninjured, and free from danger. All right. So no, you're not going to be safe and sound. All right. So you'll be sound, but you won't be safe. Anyway, I joke, right? So yeah, man, that just goes back to a lack of understanding about words. Okay. So even all of the elect is not going to be saved. Even all the elect, that's Satan. Even all of the Israelites are not going to be saved. Okay. Even all the Israelites are not going to be saved. Now you could say, yes, in the kingdom they're going to be in a state of salvation, but because they're going to have we're going to have all the promises regardless, all right, because we're Israel. But salvation is in the form of the sense of the word, and the true sense of the word is being rescued from certain evil, all right, and built up and rescued and enlightened and healed and a grand multitude of greatness happening to you. All right, that's true salvation. Okay, so not even all Israel is going to be saved. Okay, in the sense, in a way they're saved. If you want to look at the definition like that, as in being, in a good state, sure, yeah, but that's not what the true state of salvation is. All right, so see. Here it is. All right. So in a sense, yes. In a sense, no. Romans 11:26 reads, and so all Israel shall be saved. Now let's go and get the definition on this, because a lot of people will get this. So yes, Israel in a way, but saved. I don't want to say it. The confusion comes from not understanding the different meanings of salvation. All right. It's the same thing with the different meanings of what's the other word that constantly gets confused? God. All right. They'll say, oh, well, God, God. Well, you're confusing the word God with the name of the Father, Yahweh. Okay. God means power. All right. Yahweh means Yahweh. Okay. That's why well, it says God. Well, that's referring to a God and not Yahweh, or it's referring, or they use it interjectively and they get confused in the scriptures. So you got to understand what salvation means. All right. Now you see right here, it goes back to the same word, sozo, but again, there's many different words: saved, rescued from danger. Now, in the case of salvation, okay, what is salvation? All right, let's look it up. What is salvation according to the Bible? Okay, it says salvation is divine rescue from human beings from the penalty, power, and ultimate presence of sin, restoring them in a right relationship with Yahweh. Yes, okay. Israel is going to have that. Going back to the scripture, let's reopen it. Going back to the scripture, Romans 11:26. Yes, they will have that. They will be restored into the right relationship with Yahweh Basham Yahushai, delivered from sin. Yes, but as far as salvation, all right, in end times, again, you're dealing with two different types of salvation. Salvation as in being delivered from the death and destruction when Babylon's destroyed, or salvation as being imparted as, having a right relationship with Yahweh Shem Shai, restored to how they were, all right, being free from sin, being righteous, having a law written within them. Yes, that's going to happen to all Israel, as is what's being talked in Romans 11 and 26. So don't get me wrong. You say, well, you that's not what the scripture say. The scripture does say all Israel shall be saved, but again, saved in the sense as in, right, like it even says, and shall turn away ungodliness from Jacob. All right, that's being restored unto our true presence through Yahweh Shem Shai. Not all Jake is going to be saved, all right, from the death and destruction that's coming in Babylon the Great. Okay, two different forms. All right, and that's why it's important to distinguish. All right, saved as in salvation, as in being saved through Yahweh Shem Shai, as in being restored unto our our righteous ways, or saved salvation as in salvation from the destruction of Babylon, Armageddon, all right, as it's called in the Hebrew tongue. So you got to make a important distinction, all right. Are some of the heathens going to be saved from death? All right, yes. All right, saved from death. Are they going to be saved, all right, from the presence of sin, restored into right righteousness and made divine? No, they're not going to be. All right, that's going to be salvation is for Israel. All right, in the true sense. Okay, so again, saved as in not being killed in the destruction. Yes, but they're still going to be harmed. So that's not really saved. That's subjugation. All right, they'll just be, really a better word for it. I can't think of it. There's a better word. I don't like to use the word saved. All right, saved. Okay, it says priest Hakah teaches other nations can be saved. So no, they can't really be saved. Only Israel can be saved. All right. And as far as salvation from destruction in Babylon, not all Israel is going to be saved in that way. Salvation and saved in the other sense, yes. All right, I know it sounds confusing. Lord willing, it's coming off in the correct way. Okay. Saved as in restored unto our correct ways, our silver purged, dross removed, and restored as a righteous group, all right, under Yahweh Shem Shai. Yes. All right, saved as in saved from the destruction of Babylon. Not all of us. All right, Lord willing, we are, but the 2/3 are going to be cut off and die. All right, so that's not saved from the death and destruction and judgment. All right, but they will be saved from sin. All right, in the kingdom. All right, hopefully that makes sense. Salakia. But let's go ahead and watch the apostles video real quick. I'm gonna let it roll.
Shalom, giving all praise to Yahweh Shem Yashai B'Hashem. Shalom to the 144,000 rest of you elect out there. Shalom to you all. Make this super quick. This is proof that Genesis teaches that the Gentiles can be saved out of Hakah's own mouth. So just listen up, just for the record.
Ron. Yeah, what y'all think about him? I used to go back and forth with him because I didn't agree with him on certain, but now I do agree with him on Gentile salvation. But I had a conversation with him actually on the phone for like an hour. I didn't agree that other nations could be saved, but now I agree that other nations can be saved. So I agree with you on that.
And that was my whole thing. I'll be honest, I got black mom, white dad. I meant black dad, white mom. You get what I'm saying? So like, I got
be saved. Agree that other nations can be.
Well, it doesn't matter if you got a black dad and a white mom, all right? Because you corrected yourself. First you said black mom, but now you said you have a black dad and a white mom, so you're still Jake, all right? If your so-called black father is actually a Jake and he goes back to it and he's not a chocolate-covered Edomite, right? So regardless, you'd be fine, all right? It doesn't matter. Oh, my mom's white. I'm done for it. No, my mom's white too. So, all right, it goes through your paternal lineage, all right? Look up the word paternal. It goes through your paternal lineage, all right? They declared their pedigrees after the house of their fathers, not their mothers, their fathers. The father is what matters. You can even ask ChatGPT about that, all right? The bloodline, and that's why you look at the generations, all right? You can go and look at the generations in the Bible. It says the generations, or the genealogy and generations of Jesus Christ, all right? And you'll see, or you can look up any of the generations. There's plenty of them in the Bible, all right? And a lot of them are in they're in the located within the Old Testament. All right, and you can go and look and see. All right, but there's some in the New Testament as well. And you know, the generations of Jacob, generations of Yahushai, as it says in the Bible, Jesus Christ, and you'll see it always goes from man to man to man to man. This man begat this son or these sons, and these sons begat these sons. This son begat this son. It doesn't really ever mention the women, because the women, while they are important, they're not important in carrying the lineage through bloodline, because they don't do that. Okay, they don't do that. That's not something that they're, you know, again, women are important, but everybody has different uses. All right. Example, a tire is very important for a car, but you're not going to scrub your dishes with a tire. All right. It's just not, it wouldn't make any sense. You're not gonna wash your hair with a tire. All right. Different purposes. It doesn't mean a tire is not useful. They are useful. All right. They just got to be used in the right way to be useful. All right. So, you know, a man, in some ways, if we go and start doing other things, we're not going to be useful either. We're not going to be very useful as a doing all weird feminine shit. All right, makeup and house takers, and, you know, being like house maidens and shit. We're not good at that. All right, being like how they have it, like with the what do they call them? They're like, you know, they like nannies and stuff. We don't do that. All right, we're not. We don't provide a feminine touch, because we can't. All right, we're men, and because of that, we're not as the same thing. We're a little harsher with kids. When kids get harsh, you're like, hey man, brush it off. Sometimes we're not as, you know, compassionate as need be. All right, but that's not our job. All right, it's not our job to do that. That's the woman's job. All right, and the woman's job is not to do what the man's job is. All right, we're all different. Okay, so again, you know, it's through the men, all right, that the lineage is spread. Women are still important, but it's not for spreading the lineage. All right. You don't like that, not sorry. All right, sorry, not sorry. All right.
With him actually on the phone for like an hour. I didn't agree that other nations could be saved, but now I agree that other nations can't be saved. Agree that
you
other
hear it.
nations could be saved, but now I agree that other nations can't be saved.
So
I did a conversation with him.
But yeah, man, you see it. So, you know, just I didn't agree, but now I do agree. The Lord, you know, not to say that he ever really had any oil, but if he had any at all right, it's gone now. So yeah, man, let's get Revelation 11 and 13. It says, and again, talking about, you know, the remnant. So it says, in the same hour, Revelation 11:13, and the same hour was there a great earthquake. Okay, you can read up from about 11 if you want. It says, and in the earthquake were slain of men 7,000. That's a complete number of men. How, you know, it's not literally 7,000, but however many men needed to die, died. All right, and women included. It says, and the remnant were affrighted and gave glory to the power of heaven. All right, which means the remnant are those that were not destroyed. Okay, the ones that were not destroyed, they were saved, and they're going to go up in the chariots. All right, and in a true sense of salvation. All right, again, you're gonna try. Well, the heathens are not gonna be saved like Jake is gonna be saved. First of all, you can say saved as far as, oh, you know, they're gonna be set aside, but in the kingdom, they're not gonna be on the same level. They're gonna be under subjugation. They're gonna be in captivity. All right, after 1,000 years, they're not gonna be under captivity, but they're still gonna be in subjugation. Okay, so that's not salvation. Okay, that's not salvation. And you can argue the word saved as far as, you know, being set aside to not be killed, all right, so they can be the first, but that's not much of a salvation at all. You can argue that and say they are technically saved. Yeah, technically, all right, technically if you want to use the word saved, but they're more so, put up in a Ziploc bag, all right, saved for later, all right? They're not really saved in the true sense of the word, okay? Save is that you're delivered and no harm touches you. Harm is going to touch them, just not the destruction of Babylon. All right, and it's the death in Babylon. The destruction of Babylon is still going to have a very negative effect on them. All right, some of them might be injured, but as far as they're going to be alive and well enough to go into captivity, all right, under us. So that's not really, it's not salvation, really, is it? Not really salvation. You can argue it, but it's not really salvation. But you can see the remnant were affrighted. They're the ones that made it. All right, the remnant. And the remnant is of Israel. Okay? Israel. Okay? The Lord's not dealing with any of the other nations like how he deals with Israel. Okay? Right here, Isaiah 14:1, it says, for the Lord will have mercy on Jacob and will yet choose Israel and set them in their own land. And the strangers shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob. And the people shall take them and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the Lord for servants and handmaids, and they shall take them captives, who captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors. That's not much of a salvation. All right. Would you consider Israel being saved if we got saved just to be, we got saved, but then we're in Esau's kingdom again? No, that wouldn't be salvation. Okay. So no, it's not much of a salvation if you're under subjugation and then you're going back into subjugation. They're just going to be subjected under a righteous ruler, all right? Under righteous rulers through Yahweh Shemi Shai, unlike under Esau. The heathens are under Esau right now, as it says, when the wicked are in authority, the people mourn, but when the righteous are authority, the people rejoice. So roughly paraphrasing. I might have those switched, the first part and the end part the first, all right? It might have been, when the righteous are in authority. I think it is. I think it starts with the righteous. When the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice, but when the wicked are in authority, the people mourn. Okay? And I can go get it. Yeah. So, when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice, but when the wicked beareth rule, the people mourn. Proverbs 29:2. All right, I want to get it in its correct sense. But yeah, man, so that's not really, they're going to be in a better state, but they're still going to be in subjection. That's not salvation, going from one subjugation to a next. Okay, they're just going to be under a better one. That's all. They're still going to be under one, just a better one. Right? So here's Matthew 24:31. It says, and this is red letter Yahushua speaking. It says, and he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one heaven to another. All right, so there you go. So the elect, all right, the elect is in the importance. All right, Amos 3:2, he's not dealing with all the other nations. It says, you only have I known of all the families of the earth, therefore I will punish you for all your iniquities. There you go. So look, salvation is only really for Israel at the end of the day. All right, and while yes, all Israel is gonna get the upgraded bodies, all right, the mercy, and the essentially the new way of living through Yahweh Shemi Shai and that sense of salvation, not all of them are going to be saved from the death and destruction that happens in Babylon. Okay? So I guess that's where I should distinguish it. Salvation versus saved. Okay? So no, they're not. They're not going to be saved. And if not all Israel is going to be saved from that destruction, all right, then that definitely means that, and mind you, only a small percentage is going to be saved from that destruction as far as Israel goes. The rest are going to be destroyed in that destruction. They're going to have to be reborn through the elect. And then the salvation unto Yahweh Shemi Shai will occur, but they weren't saved from the death and destruction. All right, they didn't have salvation from death and destruction. All right, they had salvation through Yahweh Shemi Shai in the kingdom. And again, it sounds confusing, all right, but those that will get it, will get it. All right, so there's two different types of salvation. All right, and heathens, all right, technically can be saved from a destruction, but they're not going to be saved in any sense of the way. And that's where you're getting confused. Okay, you're getting confused. They're not going to be having eternal bodies. That's still, you're saying, oh, they're not going to die in the kingdom. No, so that's not really salvation. And even if they're not going to live eternally in the kingdom, so that's not salvation. Okay, so one, not all of them are going to be saved, all right, set apart to not be destroyed, all right, in Babylon. So there's that. And then two, so no, not all the heathens can be saved. And then two, on top of that, in the kingdom, they're not going to have the laws written within them. All right, they're not going to be perfect. They're not going to have the upgraded bodies. All right, they're not going to live forever. So they're not going to have salvation. So either way, they're not going to have it. Okay, either way. So, and that's what that guy was trying to make it. They're after 1,000 years. That's still not salvation. You're under subjugation. Subjugation is not salvation. Israel's not going to be subject. All right, the only one we're going to be subject under is Yahweh Shemi Shai, and that's not captivity. That's just righteous rule and authority. Okay. So we're not going to have any other nation above us. We wouldn't really be saved and in rest if we had another nation above us. All right, and those nations, the heathens, are going to have us above them, so that they're not going to be saved. Okay, they're not. Psalms 147 and 19, it says, he showeth his word unto Jacob, his statutes and his judgments unto Israel. Okay? He hath not dealt so with any nation. As for his judgments, they have not known them. Praise ye the Lord. So look, the only ones that are gonna truly be saved in the true sense of the word is Israel. Okay, is Israel, specifically the elect. All right, because they're going to be saved in the true sense of the word. They're going to be saved and not touched and not seen death in Babylon. All right, and they're also never going to see death in the kingdom. All right. The 2/3, they're going to see death, all right, here. They're going to be burned up with missile fire or dead in other ways, but they are going to have salvation in the kingdom, laws written within their, inward parts, because they're going to be restored, all right? They're going to be restored. But heathens are not going to have that salvation, all right, that comes after. You can say, oh, they were saved from, the missile hitting them. Sure, but that's not salvation in the true sense of the word. All right, they were just, because again, saved goes from delivered from harm. They're going to be set, dragged out from that, but just to go into harm and captivity under us, the Israelites. So that's not, again, that's Israel. They're going to die. Some of them are going to die in the fire, all right, but they're not going to go into captivity. They're going to go and be into salvation. Heathens are not getting that in any sense of the word, all right? They might avoid the Babylon's destruction. That's it. They might avoid that, but that's not salvation in the true sense of the word. Okay? So, hopefully that explains everything. Jacob, all Israel is going to be saved through Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, as far as laws written within us, restored unto our former glory, but not all Jake is going to be saved from not all Israel is going to be saved from the destruction that happens. Okay? Hopefully that makes sense. And then heathens are not really ever going to be saved at all. You can use that word saved, but it's really set apart from one destruction to another. That's not really salvation. So that's the final closing note. Lord willing, I explained that well. I'm not always the best at explaining. So hopefully that came across well, Lord willing. But that's been the lesson. All right, we're going to close out there. How long we go for? About 47, 48 minutes. Fine by me. Lord willing, it was edifying. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High, Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakakwadash. I want to say shalom to you brothers and sisters out there. Keep enduring. Keep the faith. We're almost out of here. Until next one, Lord willing. Shalom.